When people think of side effects, they think of someone took a pill and now they are depressed or they feel tired because of the pill, because it maybe took some pill to sleep better, but now they have side effects. Or people may think of someone took drugs, they feel relieved, but now they're now addicted. Side effects aren't just related to the medical or to the biological. Side effects are reality. An example given. I have a very loud voice, as you may have noticed. So often when I speak, people say I speak too loud. And I'm thinking, what? I'm keeping my voice down and still you tell me I'm speaking loud? But that's a quality of having a loud voice, that you're loud. Well, some people may feel intimidated or irritated by that. That's not your fault. That is not a dysfunction. It's just you have a loud voice, and a side effect can be that people can interpret it as aggressive. Or maybe you're tall. I'm relatively tall also. Well, if you're tall, it has advantages. There's nothing wrong with being tall or being short. However, when you're tall, people tend to notice you quicker. Now, is that a dysfunction? No, it's just a natural side effect, okay? Side effects are just qualities of an object or of a circumstance. Side effects by themselves are not dysfunctions or malfunctions or evils, okay? Now, there are side effects that are harmful. For example, if you take certain medicine and they have another effect on your health, that's different. But side effects are just side effects. Okay, so now that I explained that, I want you to understand that your prayers have an effect and your prayers also have side effects. Okay, let me repeat that. Your prayers have an effect, but they also have side effects. Side effects can be the additional qualities that belong to the manifestation of your prayer, and it can also be the artificial reactions. That's not automatically a natural thing, but how people react to it, which can also consider a side effect. And let me just tell you that sometimes the outcome you want may have side effects that will harm you in the long run. I've spoken about that earlier, when sometimes good stuff are taken away from you. But now I want to relate it to prayer. Because before I was talking about when things that you already had around you, when you had conflicts around you that are removed from you when you begin to walk by faith. Now I want to relate side effects to your prayer life. Look, let's say that, I'm going to walk for a bit. Let's say that I'm giving an illustration. You have Fred and his wife want to buy an apartment. They have 200,000 euros on the bank account. That's their mortgage, or in other words, their bank loan, and some money from their savings account. They had like 40,000 from their savings account, and the rest, 160,000, was a loan that they don't have to pay immediately back, but it's just to purchase an apartment, because the government and the new policy of the politicians made provisions for married couples, newlyweds, who want to purchase apartments. So Fred and his wife was thinking, good, let's look for apartments. They had 200,000 euros as their budget. Now Fred is not into the spiritual stuff and all of that. He is like a humanist, an atheistic humanist who looks at the rational point of view, while his wife is more open. She's not a believer, she's not in agreement with Christ, and her attitude towards spiritual is quite dumb. She's quite destructively naive when it comes to the spiritual. So this wife has New Age friends, and those New Age friends decide to help. So let's say the wife's name is Selma. I'm just thinking of a name. Selma is helped out by her New Age friends. Those friends perform their rituals, I don't go into details of it. And eventually, after 2 weeks, the couple is called by a real estate office. They can check out an apartment. So they're happy. Now Selma tells her husband about the new age stuff, but the husband is thinking, no, that's not real. This was just a rational thing that happened. The husband denies everything spiritual. So the wife thought, okay, I'm done with you. I'm not going to explain anything to you anymore. The wife realized finally that the husband is not willing to acknowledge the spiritual. But okay, so they go and check for their apartment. And everything is fine. There's furniture in the apartment, which is new. It's renovated. You have stores nearby. You have the railway nearby. So everything about that picture appears right. And Selma is quite excited. Her husband tends to doubt. The husband doesn't know why he's doubting, but the husband asked the real estate officer, "Sir, this apartment has 5 rooms. We even have our own parking lot, and I only have to pay 150,000 euros for this, right?" And the real estate officer said, "Yeah, correct." "Okay, are there any additional costs?" And the real estate officer told them, "No, they're not. If you just 150,000 euros, you can pay it with your mortgage, or you can pay it at once. Most people can't do that." And then Fred said, "We'll pay it at once." The real estate officer is quite shocked and he thought, okay. Fred said, "Give me the IBAN code, give me the bank number. We want to settle this." So they settle it. So they still have 50,000 euros left. They thought, let's go around the world. So they went through Africa to Latin America, ended up in Australia, and they were about to go to Japan. While being in Japan, Selma received a phone call, or let me say a call through WhatsApp, because through WhatsApp you can also make voice calls, and it was a cousin of hers, and this cousin followed the Lord, and this cousin asked her, "Selma, did you and Fred purchase an apartment in that and that town, in that block?" And Selma said, "Yeah." The cousin asked, "Have you paid for it yet?" Well, Selma said, "We didn't pay it yet because the real estate officer told us that the real estate office seldom took instant payments. They want us to pay it installments like everyone else. So we keep the money on the bank, and it's paid monthly. It's like renting, but after 15 years, it's completely ours." Then the cousin told her, "Selma, you and your husband need to get out of that house." And then Selma is thinking, hold on. Why this negativity? Selma became upset, and the cousin told her, "Selma, you need to leave that house." It's not. Selma just ended the conversation, blocked the cousin on WhatsApp, blocked him on Facebook. She thought, I don't want any negativity, because she learned from her new age friends that people that talk negative, block them. And it's true that people that hold on to negativity, you can better avoid them. But in this case, it wasn't negativity. Selma just didn't want anyone to disturb her relief. She had an expectation that was met, and she was all into that expectation, and anyone that said anything against it, she perceived as negative, without evaluating what was being said. So Selma even told her new age friends about her cousin, and they agreed with her. "Girl, you did the right thing. That guy is negative, keep him out." So they returned back home. But later, later the husband, Fred, noticed that most of the apartments around them are empty. And after 2 years, the price went from 150,000 to 80,000. And Fred knew that when a price drops, it means something's going on. And then one day, Fred hears people talk nearby. He doesn't mingle himself in the conversation, he keeps his distance, but he hears them speak. And it was a family, and they were saying things like, you know, several years back, the university over there, the technical university, came with a plan to renew the railway station and to renew the mall. Now what happens, the tunnel they've built caused the ground in this block and in other blocks of this city to sink, because the soil here isn't that hard. So now the technical university had to pay a fine to the state because they violated the laws when it comes to safety. And Fred is thinking, okay, I need to listen to this more carefully. And they continued. So that's why one of them said those apartments went down in value. They used to be 300,000 euros, then they became 150,000. Because most people don't want to live here because the risk and the danger that those buildings will collapse instantly is always there. And when Fred heard this, Fred was thinking, what? I bought an apartment which can collapse at any time? Why didn't anyone inform me about the soil, that the soil was not livable anymore because the soil was sinking? Why didn't anyone inform me about this? And when Fred went through the database of the local media and also the national media, he couldn't find anything about it. It was something that was kept secret by the authorities. But people that were gossiping revealed it, and those that were aware of it warned others, don't purchase an apartment over there. Now, this video has become quite long. I've taken my time to record this. I just want you to understand that in this case, you had a couple. They were not in agreement with Christ, but they were prayerful. They did pray. It were New Age prayers. Prayers nonetheless, but New Age prayers. And those prayers worked. They got the outcome. They got the house. The apartment. And they even had money left because they never thought they would have money left. They thought they're going to use 200,000 euros to purchase a house or an apartment and they need to loan more. But now they had an apartment and they were left with 50,000 euros and they used it to travel around the world. Fred always wanted to travel around the world, to go through Africa and Latin America, and finally they could do that also. So things did work out. Those New Age prayers were not imaginary, nor were they like a drug people used to feel better. They worked. They had spiritual outcomes. They had a spiritual effect that materialized in literal outcomes. But it was not supernatural, it was paranormal. So the outcome did come, but it came with danger involved in it. That's why we are commanded to be in agreement with Christ. That's why we remain prayerful and we keep on praying. Not because the more we pray, the more quicker things will happen. We remain in prayer in order to grow in perspective. For example, let's say now you have another couple. Or, okay, let me think of a name, Jack. Jack and Suzanne. Jack and Suzanne already have 2 kids and they had to leave their former house because, well, the houses were too old and they had to be torn down. They were not livable anymore. So now they stayed at friends. And they were desperately looking for a new house. So the husband and wife were praying. They were praying. 2, 3 months, 5 months passed by and they think, Lord, why don't we have a house yet? We need it. We applied for so many houses, but they keep turning us down. And then one day, Jack returns home, so-called he's at a friend. And when he arrives at the house, he noticed that there was this guy that kept looking at the house. And he looked around and he thought, what is the guy looking at? So Jack just went inside and he told others that there was this guy outside that kept looking at him. Well, the friends of Jack and Suzanne told them, don't worry about them, those are just guys from the street that have nothing else to do. Okay, so it didn't bother with it. After 8 months, finally, they were invited to see an apartment. And, well, after 8 months, they finally could move in. And it's then that Jack began to remember that often people tend to look at him in a weird manner when he lived at that friend. And he wanted to know why. So he went back to the friend's house and he found that the friend had moved. They were just living 3 months in their new apartment with their kids, and he went back to that friend, and the friend and his wife were gone. And it's then that Jack began to ask around, and one of the neighbors saw Jack and asked Jack, "Sir, are you the guy that used to live here?" Oh, and Jack said to her, "Oh, ma'am, I didn't really live there. Me and my wife, we had to move out of our house because the house was too old, and we didn't have a place to stay, so some friends helped us out." And then the neighbor told him, the neighbor told him, "Sir, the moment you arrived at that house, people noticed something began to change. The family that lived over there used to have fights all the time. They used to scream a lot, and the police often had to come to calm things down. And there were many complaints about his family also." And then Jack thinks, what? Jack thought, come on now, this can't be true. Jack never imagined his friend and his wife being in such a state. And the neighbor also revealed unto Jack, "Sir, those people, they used to be involved in drug trafficking." And Jack said out loud, "Get out of here." And the neighbor also revealed unto Jack, there were people that wanted to kill that guy that lived over here, that helped you out. But every time they came near this house, something kept them away. There's this young drug dealer that often came here because that friend of yours owed him 20,000 euros in drug money. But every time the drug dealer came around to teach them a lesson, one time he came with a whole gang. When they came, they saw very tall figures walking around there. And they sensed that there was some lightning coming from you. So they kept away. After you left, there was a stone that was thrown into one of those windows, and the family just vanished one day. They went missing, nobody knows where they are. Some people say that the husband took the wife and the kids away to Argentina. Nobody knows. So what's going on here? Jack and his wife and their children, they were in need. Our friends helped them out. But here's what's really happened. That friend was involved in the negative, and he knew that he and his family were in danger. So when they heard that Jack needed help, they helped him out. And because Jack was there, the homicide, the kidnapping, the homicide, and all the misery that should have taken place didn't take place. Anytime it was about to happen, something happened to the perpetrators. So people became terrified of Jack, and Jack wasn't even aware of it. And let me add another thing. The neighbor also told to Jack, "Sir, when you lived over here and you went to the supermarket, did you notice that when you walked around, people tend to back off? People tend to stare at you?" And Jack said, "Yeah, I remember that." And the neighbor even asked Jack, "Sir, what is it that you've done? Are you a wizard? Are you into voodoo? What have you done? Because those people around here, those criminals, they're quite fearless. They could knock someone down just like that and they wouldn't care. But with you, it is as if they fell to the ground anytime they noticed you were around. And Jack was saying, I don't know what you're talking about, man. Ma'am. Well, to make it short, Jack was a blessing in disguise. Jack's presence over there prevented the collapse of that community, because if that family would have been killed, it would have caused a lot of violence in that community and people would have gone off at each other. But because Jack was there, it was prevented. But so Jack's presence over there had a side effect, and this side effect was working out in a positive. But Jack couldn't notice it because Jack was only focused on getting the apartment, and it was indeed a real need to get that apartment. But Jack didn't look at the bigger picture. Jack didn't even notice that people kind of backed off from him. Well, there's been a long video. I've given 2 illustrations in which I've explained that your prayers have side effects. And those side effects don't have to be a malfunction or a dysfunction. Okay? Just trust the Most High. When an outcome doesn't come the way you expect, you've not been denied anything. Just keep on going. Be at peace.